In this video, we're going to learn how to solve constant velocity problems using the constant velocity equation. V equals d over t. V stands for velocity, d stands for displacement or distance, and t is time elapsed. So there are three variables within the equation. So if I'm asking you to solve for one of them, you need to be given the other two. One of the things you need to be careful about is the units. Make sure the units match up before you plug in the numbers. If the units don't match up, you're going to get the wrong answer. So let's start with number one. Find the distance traveled if a car travels at 85 miles per hour for 45 minutes. So distance traveled we're looking for is d. We don't know what that is. We need to have v and t given to us. V is right here, 85 miles per hour. T is 45 minutes. So as you write out your information, what you're missing, what you're given, double check to make sure your units match up. I have miles per hour and minutes. Should be pretty obvious that minutes and hours are not matching up. So we need to convert time into hours. So take your 45 minutes. Let's use our fence method. There are 60 minutes in 1 hour. And with that, we cancel out the minutes. 45 times 1 divided by 60 ends up being 0.75 hours. So this is equal to 0.75 hours. And now the units match up. So let's plug in the variables, or plug in the numbers for the variables. 85 in for v, d we're solving for, and t becomes 0.75, 0.75. Let's change that. If I'm solving for d, it's currently being divided by 0.75. The inverse of division is multiplication. So you're going to multiply both sides by 0.75. And the calculator, 0.75 times 85 is 63.75. And if I did miles per hour times hours, I'm left with miles. 63.75 miles. Make sure that your variable is written clearly, you box in your final answer, and the units are written after the number. Let's go to the second problem. How long does it take a human being to run a mile at 6 miles per hour? So how long would be time? We don't know what that is. A mile would be a single mile is our distance. 1 mile. And then 6 miles per hour is your velocity. So it doesn't ask you what units to put the time in, so just assume whatever the default that you solve for is what you're going to are the units that are going to be appropriate for the final answer. Double check your units, miles per hour, they match up. So our equation, we're going to replace v with 6, we're going to replace d with 1, and t with, we're going to keep it t because we don't know what it is. All right, now solving for t. Currently t is in the denominator, so you can't multiply both sides by 1 and be done with the problem. You have to move t by doing cross multiplication. 6 times t equals 1 times 1. 6t equals 1. Now, do you see how t is no longer in the denominator? It's now a numerator, and now you can start solving using inverse operations. 6 over 6 is 1. 1/6 is approximately 1 divided by 6. 0.16 repeating, so we'll do 0.167 seconds. Sorry, hours. Moving on to number 3. What is the average velocity of a submarine that traveled 500 miles in 10.5 hours? What is the average velocity? We don't know what that is. The distance traveled is 500 miles. And the time is 10.5 hours. Now, when you ask yourself if the units match up, we don't have to ask that question yet because it doesn't ask for the average velocity in a certain type of units. So if I don't ask, or the problem doesn't say a certain type of units for velocity, you can just assume whatever that you're calculating with is the final answer. So in this case, it's going to be miles per hour. Then you're fine. You don't have to convert anything. If this said meters per second and I calculate miles per hour, then after you run through the solving portion of the problem, you have to convert the speed. So plug in 500 on top, 10.5 on the bottom. We're going to divide those two numbers. So 500 divided by 10.5, 47.62. So 47.62 miles per hour. So when you're looking at these problems, determine what's given to you and what you're missing. You'll see all three problems. They started out with me writing down exactly what's given to me and exactly what I'm missing. Therefore, I know where to plug in the numbers for which variables when I get to the solving portion. Also, double check your units match up. For example, miles per hour, those units are fine. The first example, miles per hour, minutes, those don't match up. Hours and minutes are different, so we need to convert there before we plug them in. If you follow those steps, you should be able to solve for any of the missing variables on the quiz.